It's an alright song, but I kind of feel that it just skips a lot and it needs to be fleshed out more. But it's a nice theme for the great Kung Lao and Jennifer in Mortal Kombat Conquest. Hey guys, this is the Ecron Writer here, welcoming you to another continuation in my Mortal Kombat Podfic series. And this one happens to be a one-shot featuring Kung Lao, the great Kung Lao's descendant, of course, and my OC, Aiko. They have actually fallen in love with one another in my last epic, and so they decide to make it official. So, this is a continuation from Shaolin Monks Part 2, and a prequel to my next epic. So let's get this thing going, shall we? Alright, a date and a destiny. This was just a random one-shot I came up with. Hopefully it'll lead to some aspects to Mortal Kombat 4, unlike 3. This was a territory I did not want to tread on, but I had a series of random ideas that made me develop this short fic. You're leaving us? Kung Lao and Aiko Crackle found one of those ancient canoe boats on the Hanan shore that was shaped like a dragon, complete with a head as a bow and a tail for a stern, as well as paddles. The pair also saw Liu Kang wearing his dark olive green overcoat with black jeans and brown shoes, contrary to his usual Shaolin monk garb. He was carrying a suitcase after he loaded several others onto the little vessel. His partner was startled when he noticed him as still as a statue, and Liu never said a word. He just nodded without a single change to his stoic expression. Yes, I am leaving for America, just as I did before I participated in the first Mortal Kombat tournament. Why? His partner was nearly speechless. Our numbers of monks have been dwindling drastically, Kung Lao, ever since the Tarkhan attack, and later Shao Kahn's Earthrealm invasion. I figured I shall search in the land of freedom and democracy to find more, and perhaps better, recruits. Why didn't you tell us about this? Why didn't Raiden? Oh, good point. Why else would you have stopped me? Luke replied with a smirk that didn't assure Lao in the slightest. Aiko knew from the get-go plenty of tension would arise, so she just broke the impending storm. Liu Kang, if I may, let me make a declaration here. I've been amongst the Shaolin for the past few weeks, and ever since Memorial Day, I have officially decided to actually leave America. What? You decided to leave the USA? Your birthland? I'm sorry, Kung Lao, but I must. I've been reading up on its history, and I'd seen nothing but corruption, and it always took me back to my past, which our current president Bill Clinton should fall from infidelity. It will happen. And here, she looked around at the peaceful landscape. I love it here. I have a sense of belonging. The Temple of Light is the light. I feel that freedom and democracy are only scratching the surface compared to its darkness. Still, it is the land of opportunity, and maybe I can find some potential monks that can reside here. Has Raiden told you about this? Lao wondered if the Thunder God gave him a clue, yet he denied it. This was only his choice. Edenia shall be fine. I've been anxious on beefing up our defenses since those incidences, and I'm just weary from all the grieving over the loss of their families. I'm only trying to do what is right. Our cause means nothing if we should remain alone. So too the White Lotus Society. This statement made them change their minds almost instantly. Ever since Liu convinced everyone that Sindel would change, they realized he may be crazy, but he always had a valid point to cover. You're going alone. I hope Raiden will watch over you. And it's hard to admit, but you and him are the ones that keep moving the Academy forward to victory. I can only be your second. Liu actually laid a hand on his shoulder. Which is why they need you and Aiko here. You are in charge. I'm leaving the Shaolin in your stead. This definitely caught the monk off guard. He wanted to live in solitude from all the chaos he had to put his brethren through. Yet still, it somehow gave him some pride. Liu Kang entrusted his partner to take charge. All he did was give him a thin grin. I won't let you down. For the Shaolin. Liu repeated his war cry before they bowed to each other lowly. His companion walked up and gave him a firm grip. Safe journeys, my brother. They both smiled, and Liu returned the pressure. Then he faced Aiko. Take care of him, will ya? Her eyes sparkled as she smiled. They hardly noticed her blushing and her dimples deep, nearly covering her eyes. Of course. Liu finally began to depart, and all the Shaolin behind his friend said farewell and prayed for best wishes and bon voyage. As Lao was walking back to the compound, Aiko then confirmed that ever since she realized it was Memorial Day, she never wanted to leave the secure Chinese walls. She later went on over Americans' history of crime and corruption, starting with watching Goodfellas the night before, and then realizing how idiotic grown people were involving media, such as Jerry Springer and MTV, she recalled. She also went over the other Martin Scorsese films, though it wouldn't be released for another couple years. She could hardly remember the events that transpired in the year 1992. They were so close, yet the details appeared to be so far away. And Bill Clinton's possible infidelity on top of that, despite leading the nation into prosperity for only a few years, she sealed her fate in stone. Needless to say, everyone was shocked. Even some murmured in Chinese that she was running away from her homeland and family. She then thought it was treason staying in a country under her own will that contradicted American standards. But after a pep talk, Raiden assured as long as she doesn't commit criminal nor warring intentions, and if she only supports the Order of Light as well as other protectors of Earthrealm, she won't be charged. He was proud she realized her place was here amongst the Shaolin. Kung Lao abruptly stopped ahead of Aiko and turned to her. I'm glad you decided to stay, Aiko. It means a lot. To me. To us. I'm sure my nephew would be ecstatic you are staying. She nearly whispered she was happy to stay as well, even with her new family, and the main reason she considered was Kung Lao, the monk who managed to save her life since the night they met. Later on, to ease their disquietude on Aiko pondering over her birthland's perversities, and Kung Lao's separation anxieties over Liu Kang leaving the academy, he offered her to perhaps settle themselves in a nice hearty dinner to one of the pricey and fancy hibachi settlements. Aiko was excited as she'd never been to one in years, since before the Revenant invasion. The word got around rather quickly as they were together. The news went just as fast as a jackrabbit, obviously since the Wuxi Academy had a large networking system. So it was always prone to gossip. The monks weren't stupid, as Aiko wasn't aware it was something she and Kung Lao never thought on doing. Going on a date! They began to tease and coo to her in the matter, much to her bashfulness and irritation. By the next day, Aiko was constantly being shifted from one woman, wives and sisters of the Shaolin, to the next, prepping her for the upcoming date. She really felt flushed with the procedure seemed to stretch on for an hour or so, applying her with makeup, trimming her hair, going through manicures and pedicures, and a little clothes shopping to find something that wasn't one of the many hand-me-downs she received from monks with brethren that had passed. Better than nothing. On a stool within a well-lit room, one of the Orientals was still stylizing her dark blonde hair and applying hairspray. She was wearing an amethyst decorative skirt with matching liners. And being that she hated stilettos, she was wearing a new pair of bright shoes. "Are you guys done yet?" "Pink, you look so good. You'd certainly bring honor to us all." Aiko turned agitated with all the flattery. "Hey! You guys are all wives and sisters to the Shaolin! What does that make me any different?" Her body grew tense as she folded her arms. "Because you're going on a date with Kung Lao. He's one of the most esteemed Shaolin monks around. You should be lucky." I guess. It turned out the big makeover was almost 2 hours. Aiko couldn't stand being around a large crowd of women anymore. All this attention and the constant shifting around was giving her a headache. As soon as the procedures were finally over and done with, she immediately headed for the gentle koi pond. It was late afternoon, and the sun was hiding behind the towers, giving her reassuring shade and opaqueness. She couldn't stand her angst on looking and feeling like someone else. She had to get some air and solitude. She couldn't resist her fretfulness any longer. She was a tomboy and not accustomed to the hefty cosmetics, the endless pushing around, and teasing from people she didn't even know. Before she felt she was about to have an out-of-body experience, someone walked up to her. "You're a very lucky lady, Aiko." Relieved she heard a familiar tenor, she knew it was Raiden. "Oh, thank God it's you. I couldn't stand being with all those women for another minute. Ugh, I'm not used to this." "You should be thankful to them. They did an impressive job. I'm sure you will please Kung Lao on your date. He's been anxious about it." He sat down next to her while watching the numerous fish and frogs. Water then trickled from his fingers. This does bring back some memories of the distant past, with the great Kung Lao." Kung Lao's ancestor? It's not often she heard stories and legends of Lao's distant bloodline. Over 500 years ago, Over 500 years ago, the great Kung Lao also had a promising lover. Her name was Jen, formerly known as Genevieve Rayland. If you've guys seen Mortal Kombat Conquest, you should know, but I never saw it yet. I've watched their hearts blossom, even though it was slow and distant. She belonged to a family who wasn't enthralled by the Shaolin monk. Her father especially rejected him, as Baron was once attacked by the Black Dragon, since he was unable to pay off his debts. So he paid no respect for the rich Lao. This broke Jen's heart, but they managed to mingle with each other from time to time. Until that one fateful night, when Takeda was corrupted by a wraith named Scorpion. Scorpion! He was not the same man we know. He wasn't Hanzo Hasashi. Jen was captured, and he and Shang Tsung wanted to lure Lao to a battle in order to claim his soul. He fought well, yet her father was slewed. She was burned by a hellfire spell as she was desperate to end the fight with him and a few brainwashed monks at the Temple of Light. After Scorpion was sealed into the Nether Realm, her last wish was to give Kung Lao the key to her house, the trading post. It became his base of operations since he inherited it. Alas, he spared Shang Tsung during the very first tournament, and 50 years later, His soul was taken after being killed by Goro. That is unbelievable. Kung Lao was thinking on inviting you, but he couldn't help his mind going adrift to those tragic circumstances. His ancestors' burden had been placed on his shoulders. That, and your heart meld of your future, was why he became so protective of you. He needs you to help shoulder these responsibilities, even after Liu Kang. And that's why I let him go, as he felt he needed to rebuild the Shaolin. We all have a right for our own destiny. You have a date with destiny, so make it a good one. They both exchanged smiles. Aiko nodded and replied in affirmation. I will. Thanks, Raiden. Aiko was eager to meet up with Kung Lao as she continuously paced around her new oriental room. It took a few weeks, but she finally got the place well organized. He promised to start their date at 8 p.m. sharp. Only a couple minutes to go. Her heart was racing, her palms were sweating, in which she had to constantly wipe them on her liners, which hardly did any favors. And sometimes she even felt a bit sick to her stomach. All of a sudden, a few taps behind the door interrupted her reveries. With a shaky hand, she clutched the handle like a fish grip and slid the shoji to one side. In stood Kung Lao, clean and prepared as ever. He wore his usual razor-rimmed hat, but in conjunction with a sort of American garb, complete with red and white stripes. Basically, it's like the design that he had in MK11, which is weird because, he's a Chinese, and he's like wearing a garb similar to the American flag? What a bizarre idea. It always bothered me, but, now's a good time as any. She kind of figured the armored plates on top made his outfit uncomfortable. Still, he looked fantastic, and he admires his new getup. Hey, Kung Lao, you ready? Yeah, come on. He took her by the hand, and for once, Aiko never wanted to let her lover go. In fact, as he kept on leading her through the Wuxi Academy to the designated area, even over the crimson-painted bridges, through a few series of woods, and under the starry night sky, she just felt safe and secure with Lao by her side, assured she wouldn't go astray nor be caught off guard like what happened with Jen, nor when she was stranded in a different time. It only took several minutes of walking before they noticed a bright ambience. A one-story pagoda stood, and red lanterns were shining with white light. The sense of fried oriental foods hit Aiko and Lao's nostrils, making her mouth water. They paused for a few moments. This is it. He also mentioned the Chinese symbols just simply translated to Mikado, and they were soon on their way. Well, actually, it's Mikado, but this was the place I used to go to for hibachi, and I too haven't been there in years. Man, I just love the dazzling place, but damn, it is expensive. A male greeter approached the duo and spoke in Mandarin, the native tongue of the Shaolin, and Kung Lao replied with great fluency. He was also amazed to see the delicate foreigner, even giving a slight bow to her. She was lost in translation, but as the couple were led to their table, Lao stated he was impressed for him to have a date with someone outside of China who wasn't an Oriental, so she did stand out from the crowd. It wasn't long before the waitress came to them, and again Lao had to translate as they ordered hot tea and a Coke. Lao ordered the beef hibachi while Aiko stuck with the fish. He described this used to be a place where the monks socialized occasionally. Since everything was expensive and they were often in large numbers, they didn't come there often. The place was just astounding. All the exotic decor and the large taikos at the two corners, and specifically the flaming displays and quick reflexes of the waiters just made everything magnificent. Aiko wondered if Lao would be able to do the same, in which he replied he was never much of a chef. Their main Waiter even complimented in Mandarin of the couple, from their looks to seeing Kung Lao again after several months. Shocked that he wasn't with Liu Kang in his usual passe this time, and admired their date. Lao was also relieved that for once, this supper was a lot more peaceful and a lot less strenuous. The appetizers were the iconic clear onion soups, the miyabi soups, followed by their suppers. They were scrumptious on first bite, sip, and smell. Each hibachi had fried white rice and fresh oriental veggies, though Aiko had a variety of fish, including shrimp and crab. Several minutes later, it was time for dessert, and they each requested for fried ice cream. Lao was amazed she picked the same dish as him, albeit with a different flavor. Before they got their tip, the waiter congratulated them once more and wished them for a successful union in the future. Lao was willing to pay the fare with the usual yen, in which Aiko still had a difficult time comprehending as far as language and currency went. He was the one who would gladly do the damage since he orchestrated the first date. He was never shy. He had many connections as they were all part of the Shaolin, even though the White Lotus was more secretive. And as a native, he knew all the nooks and crannies. Aiko felt even more dependent to him than ever. They headed home after about an hour after their gathering, and she was all smiles. "I had a great time with you, Kung Lao. We should do this again sometime." He couldn't agree more. Of course. I hardly get the chance to go outside the Shaolin grounds. We've always been so duty-driven. It was no wonder that Aiko always compared the monks to any military organization, even the special forces. Even if Earthrealm was at peace, they can never catch a break. Downtime seemed as rare as a solar eclipse, if not just as brief. She couldn't help but feel sorry for them, Liu, Raiden, and Lao sometimes. Even the heavy burdens of partaking in his ancestors' tasks. He saw her eyes glaze and he reached and rubbed her cheek to keep her attention. He was always aware of her habits on drifting off. He was like an anchor to her buoy, much like what Raiden said. "I am now twice the man. It is thanks to your pure heart." It was true that with their company, both hearts seemed to have eased up, even during the darkest moments. Lao guided Aiko's face forward as they leaned in for a kiss. Until something perked Aiko's hearing. She was sound sensitive, much like him, but there were some growing loud grunts from a distance. Lao followed her gaze and recognized they belonged to the monks in distress. He quickly readjusted his hat and fixated and ran to the Wuxi arena. The massive circular platform hardly had any guardrails. Basically it's the Wuxi Academy. I'll spare you on the details. Lao and Aiko ran to the scene, though the warrior raised an arm. "Stay back, Aiko!" She was bewildered of the chaos, yet she stayed as she watched. He watched him teleport. The stranger declared, "Where is the champion of Earthrealm?" All the monks did was plead to him to spare their lives since Liu Kang left the academy. Lao spoke out. "The champion left the academy. However, you have found his second best." The crowd grew stunned. He walked toward the intruder. "I am Kung Lao II, descendant of the great Kung Lao, the first ever champion. I challenge you to mortal combat. Do you accept or yield?" The next best would still be a formidable opponent. "I shall accept. Show me what you can do, Shaolin." "I would be more than happy to." He did his usual moves, even trying to outmaneuver the old man, yet his flexibility were on par, along with his senses. Never wanted to underestimate him, but every swipe was meaningless. Countered by a powerful blow evaded with little effort. Lao fought with honor, but all his moves seemed to be in vain. It was as if this elder worlder was as strong as Shao Kahn, if not more mightier. He took every measle beating before he unleashed his own. Each assault gave Lao discomfort and soon anguish. No matter how resilient Lao was, he wasn't as enduring. His special moves like his hat throw, whirlwind kick, actually it should be tornado, and teleport were mere toys. The guy complimented his tornado, only left him a breeze. Is that all, mortal? Allow me to show you true wind. Wound up, created a funnel. Lao wanted to counter with his own, but his foolishness got the best of him. He was caught in the core like an updraft. Vortex broke and tossed Lao straight to the ground. Fujin caught him in one hand before he laid him down. Aw, man, I revealed it. Oh well. I guess you all know who he is by now. He could have sworn he heard Aiko's cry. She attempted to use her cardiokinesis, but what the geezer did was raise a hand. Hold up! I have no need to kill him. He used his same hand to actually heal Lao's wounds, much to everyone's amazement. There was a distant bark belonging to a wolf chasing its prey, and in came Kiba and Nightwolf. He assured, Relax, mortals. I only wanted to test Lao's skills. Not bad for a second best. You are the first Earthrealmer to hold up the longest. Even stronger than your ancestor. You know of the great Kung Lao? Who are you? Indeed, I am Fujin, one of the Elder Gods. I also happen to be Raiden's younger brother. Everyone was speechless. No one knew Raiden has an elder sibling, not even Nightwolf and Aiko. If you are one of the Elder Gods, why did you come here? I've been searching for Earthrealm's champion. However, finding an aerokinetic and the descendant of the first ever hero is just as fitting. There has been tension in heaven, and the halls of a possible war brewing from a man named Shinnok. No one knew the name. If you are curious or rather anxious on finding the answers, I shall meet you here again within the warrior's shrine. You are a pretentious fighter, Kung Lao, even as much as your ancestor. But you must need to improve your skills, and I say that to all of you, he stated to the surrounding monks, though they seemed to be able to walk off with just humiliation. Lao, Aiko, and Nightwolf just stood, awestruck, after the intimidating wind elemental dissipated. Disney hit Mulan, not a huge fan of. Also, Selena, when they did with Chris. I was unsure how Aiko would look, whether it'd be here or in my previous epic. Ever since Adobe Flash Player was no more, I could no longer use the Pokemon Trainer Creator, which is a program I'd been using to design my OCs. I asked a friend for help, and she's currently in the process of making one, hopefully, which she did. And yes, I watched Goodfellas, reminded me of America's corrupt and criminal history. And, yeah, Bill Clinton's infidelity. I didn't have any ideas for Aiko's one-shot in Memorial Day. Or 4th of July, actually. She would be a Chinese citizen. So, I'm not planning on leaving the US for reals, but I'm just greatly disappointed in what has gone through. I always perceive it now as the land of the free, yet it's only scratching the bright surface, and people aren't aware of the more darker, sinister underbelly, including Biden. To ease Aiko and Kung Lao's angst, they went on a date, and I haven't been to a hibachi place in so long. It's always exhilarating. Sorta reminded me of the hilarious comedy Beverly Hills Ninja in that regard. Robin Shue for the win. Fujin made an unexpected appearance. I kind of seem to have a dynamic with Kung Lao similar to Chris Griffin and Yoda in the Family Guy trilogy. After all, they both possess aerokinetic abilities, so why not? Like I said, this was a series of random ideas here. I might be ready to begin another epic. The Lao's training might be a prologue. So see you guys then. Until then, this is the Ekron Writer signing out, and I'll see you again in Shinnok's Uprising.